Hey, this is a message for those of you who like the Majority Report. If you like what we do around here, thoughtful, progressive analysis, sometimes funny. We also do some other stuff besides that. You're going to love the print or the digital version of Current Affairs magazine. Current Affairs combines intelligent commentary, biting political satire, and actually like gorgeous artwork to produce one of the country's most elegant and informative magazines, and it's all ad-free. Current Affairs is a fantastic complement to the Majority Report. We've had Nathan Robinson on many times on this program. The reporting they do over there, the analysis, honestly, great stuff. They got a story on the top of their page now about those comedians who are going to Riyadh to play for the Saudi prince. Marin had actually something funny to say about that. But nevertheless, check out the magazine. They've got great stories that you may have missed in other places. Use the code Majority Report. You get 30% off any subscription of your choice for the year. Go to currentaffairs.org/subscribe. Enter the code Majority Report at checkout. Offer expires October 31st. And now, time for this show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
And I get the feeling you've been cheated.
It is Monday, September 29, 2025. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Cory Doctorow, author of Enshittification, Why Everything Suddenly Got Worse, and What to Do About It. Also on the program, Trump meets with Schumer as the shutdown looms. Meanwhile, Supreme Court gives Trump to unilaterally rescind congressional appropriations, this via foreign aid. But why even sign a budget if he can just rescind it? Trump to meet Netanyahu as Trump Organization inks a new $1 billion deal in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
That's a coincidence.
Kash Patel corrects Trump, says the FBI agents were called to the Capitol for crowd control after the riots started. Trump sends 200 National Guard to Portland, Oregon. No one knows why. I mean, they know why. This as ICE march in Chicago. Trump to speak at the Hegseth convened military loyalty oath meeting tomorrow. Senator Thune calls for U.S. farmers to be bailed out as the administration decides to bail out Argentina. Trump's asked SCOTUS for birthright citizenship ban. And Eric Adams drops out of the New York mayoral race. Unclear which real estate developer he'll end up being hired by. Finally, at least 4 killed in an attack on a Mormon church in Michigan by a vet who thought Mormons to be the Antichrist. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us.
Fun Day Monday.
Fun Day Monday.
That's what we call it here.
It's nice to have these legacy nicknames
I know.
for days.
I know.
that remind us of what was back in the day. A lot of news, obviously, over the weekend. This thing in Michigan, again, horrific. I mean, it seems like a weekly event where we have someone with weapons. I mean, in this instance, the guy drove his truck into a Mormon church, shot up people. You will not hear much of it because it does not fit into the rubric of what the administration wants to push right now.
Yep.
We'll talk about this later. Over at the beginning of the week, I guess it was Friday, Stephen Miller was out there basically talking, this is, what is it, step 2 of the Reichstag fire plan. And we're going to see more of this. It's just going to get worse. There is no returning to an era where we don't have fascism before it gets worse.
I mean, just anticipate, like, when we see how bad things are right now, well, the economy is not going to improve in the short term, at the very least. And I anticipate more of these authoritarian actions by the administration as a way to combat that and combat dissent. And Ken Klippenstein, we'll get to it later, but had great reporting on this. They are going to be monitoring, it seems to be the case, anti-capitalist, anti-Trump administration dissent, and using that as a way to justify surveilling them and cracking down. And so it's not going to just be immigrants, as some people anticipated, as if that wasn't bad enough.
Well, I mean, there's an old poem about this, right? First they came for, I mean, listen, and this is going to be they're claiming they're sending 200 troops to Portland to fight against riots or out of control protesters. And of course, what's going to happen is the injection of these people is going to cause protests. And then that's going to become the rationale. I'm in no way suggesting don't protest, but what I am suggesting is you watch this dynamic. And because the more it is anticipated, the less effective it is. That's it. In the meantime, here are in Chicago, they have injected, and we don't know who these people are. These guys could be, some combination of FBI. Incidentally, the lowest amount of drug apprehensions in the in years by the FBI over the past couple of months, because they've all been pulled off of actual police work and now are in charge of marching through cities.
Same with the human trafficking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. And so these are federal police. We don't know really what agency they come from. Some could be FBI. Some theoretically could be DEA. Some could be prison guards. Some could be newly hired ICE agents. But they're marching around in Chicago in a show of force to, I guess, people who are visiting the city, tourists, or working or living in the city. Oh, pause it. And just in case, pause it right there. Just in case you're wondering why they're in almost full military gear, there's a couple of brave ones who are just wearing cowboy hats. But the rest of them are wearing full tactical gear. And of course,
masks up.
And of course, 90% of them are masked. As we've seen, that's generally when we watch fascists march through a city. We saw this the other day in Iowa. 90% of them are masks.
I guess masks are okay when you're harming other people as opposed to protecting other people.
Well, maybe they're concerned about catching COVID, which is legit,
diapers.
which is legitimate, but they're probably wearing them for the same reason, I would imagine, when other militia, fascist militia, march through cities. They don't want to be recognized. They're embarrassed by what they're doing. And, I guess some measure of credit goes to these people that they know they should be embarrassed.
Yeah.
here is a guy caught on a body cam of this is a ICE official caught on camera by somebody else's body cam. Maybe it was a cop, a local cop. It's unclear. But listen to what this guy up in Cato, New York. This is Cato, New York is like up near I think it's like north of Syracuse, somewhere up in that area, Rochester, Syracuse area, near Lake Ontario, but so relatively close to the border, I guess. And you should know, 100 miles from the border in is where ICE can operate. So, which is like 70% of the population in this country. But here he is. Listen to the way that he speaks of immigrants.
There's countries like Brazil and other places where they're literal street rats at a very young age and they're committing crimes. And then they come here. I don't know if you have kids, but they'll eat our kids for breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're street rats and they'll eat our kids for breakfast.
They're basically, he's calling them, thugs and criminals and cannibals almost, vermin. Barely human. In fact, they are less than subhuman in that estimation because a dog can be your companion or a cat. They're actually an active threat to your children.
Let's look at one of these very crafty individuals. We don't know the origin of this person, but it's unclear to me what he's going to get, but he's a delivery guy. This is in Chicago. And this is just fun because it gives you an opportunity to see our boys in camo operate.
Tier 1 operators. Yeah.
Oh, man.
They're
salute.
Some of them are border patrol. Of course, they're wearing masks, and they're in Chicago, which incidentally, not a border town. But nevertheless, they're here to protect you and get those bad delivery guys. Ready? Go. Oh.
I like that guy wasn't
Hold
masked.
on. I want you to do this. Yeah, you go
You can
back
see his
there. Now I
disappointment.
want you to slow-mo right here. And can you play it on slow-mo? Okay, all right, go. All right, watch this. Look at this guy chasing him. Now watch. He's so out of breath. He runs around the white thing there. Incidentally, those white things are like, they flop.
Yeah.
And he has to go around it like he's in like some
he's
type of
doing the
obstacle
slalom?
course. Yeah, exactly.
Or he's doing a cone drill. He would not have made varsity.
Hold on, do that. Play that one more time, and I'm going to just go like this. Ready?
We have a soundtrack.
And go.
What did the guys in the back think they were going to do?
Yeah. We're gonna get him. We're gonna get him.
This is my one chance to show effort today.
Exactly.
They don't want to be on tape, not hustling.
Exactly. No, look at me.
It's like looking busy.
Oh, God, I love that guy made them look like a bunch of Home Alone villains.
Wow, that guy was fast. What kind of bike was that? Wow.
Not a single runner. Hired like 50,000 guys that can't do like 2 minutes of running.
They're all wearing cowboy boots too, and there's like, oh, they got some blisters.
Yeah.
They're already out of shape, and now they're like in like 100 pounds of body armor.
Dressed for Fallujah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like that delivery driver has to do cardio all the time on that bike. You thought you were going to outrun him?
All right, come on.
His calves are better than Sam's back in the day.
Well, let's not get carried away. All right, go back. Ready? Let's go back. 1, 2, and 3.
Bye-bye.
That's the favorite part too, where they all like sort of run into each other. All right. Well, we tried. What are you gonna do? We're gonna put out all APP out on that guy. We're gonna get. I think it was chicken parm sandwiches in there.
APP is like, I don't understand you. Can you please? Again.
Who's on the bike? Okay, I hyperventilate. Let me just, I need 5 minutes. Oh my God. All right, in a moment, we're going to be talking to Cory Doctorow, author of Enshittification, Why Everything Suddenly Got Worse and What to Do About It. First, a couple of words from our sponsors. One of our sponsors today. Long work weeks, busy weekends can have you feeling and looking depleted. Mm-hmm. Really? Do tell. But Prolon has a 5-day fasting mimicking diet that works at the cellular level to rejuvenate you from the inside out. They provide real results that include fat-focused, sustainable weight loss with no injection needed. Now they're up in their game with the next generation 5-day program delivering the same science-backed benefits in a cleaner, more convenient, and more flavorful format. Prolon is a plant-based nutrition program. It features soups, snacks, and beverages designed to nourish the body while keeping it in a fasting state. Triggers cellular rejuvenation and renewal. It has been developed over decades at the USC's Longevity Institute. They've got all of the literature over on their site. Backed by top U.S. medical centers, Prolon's been shown to support biological age reduction, metabolic health, skin appearance, and fat loss, and energy. The next gen builds the original Prolon with 100% organic soups and teas. It's a richer taste and a ready-to-eat meals. Look, it is a 5-day plan that, when I did it, I thought it was going to be very, very difficult. It was not easy, but it was not nearly as hard as I thought it would be. And I had a lot of energy. The hardest part was really, honestly, sitting down with Saul and having him go really dramatic bites of his food while I had mine. But, by the second or third day, that little chocolate Cocoa Crisp that they give you for dessert, on day 3, you're like, oh my God, this is so amazing. But really, energy was great. You feel great doing it and after. And the research shows helps with longevity. Start to think about that more at my age. For a limited time, Prolon's offering listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/majority. That's PROLONLIFE.com/majority to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/majority. Check the podcast and YouTube descriptions for more information. Also sponsoring the program today, Smalls. What is Smalls? Smalls is a real cat food, protein-packed, made preservative-free with ingredients that you would find in your fridge. Right now, if you're listeners to the program, you can get 60% off your first order plus free shipping. Head to smalls.com. Use our promo code MAJORITY for a limited time only. They deliver it right to your door. And cats.com named Smalls their best overall cat food. I don't need to hear that from cats.com, with all due respect, because my cat loves this stuff. And I will say that I've had the cat now, the new cat, we're getting close to a year. And I feel like we hit something. And I don't know if it was the Smalls or what, because he loves the broth.
Oh, yeah.
And but they also have the food, but he loves the bird broth, essentially the chicken and turkey broth. And we have hit some type of change in our relationship. The cat and I snuggle.
Wow.
I think it's also, it's like he's calmed down because he's not a kitten anymore, but like he'll let me sleep until like 6:30.
Very nice.
He will sleep on my bed now with me. Then he'll walk all over my face, but
It's part of the charm.
He is pooping in the litter box. Things are good right now. But Smalls also has amazing treats and snacks you can add to your order. Like I say, my cat loves the broth. And I think it's good for them too because they never drink enough water, cats.
Yeah.
Regardless, after switching to Smalls, 88% of cat owners reported overall health improvements. That's a big deal. And if you have a picky cat, Smalls will send you, it has a sampler so you can try everything Smalls has to offer, figure out which one the cat loves, then you're locked in. Team at Smalls is so confident your cat's going to love their product, you can try it risk-free. That means they'll refund you if your cat won't eat their food. What are you waiting for? Give your cat the food they deserve for a limited time only because you are a Majority Report listener. 60% off your first Smalls order plus free shipping by using our code MAJORITY. That's 60% off when you head to smalls.com. Use the promo code MAJORITY. Again, promo code MAJORITY. 60% off plus free shipping at smalls.com. Again, check our podcast and YouTube description for more information. Quick break. When we come back, Cory Doctorow, his new book is out, or I think it's coming out in a day or two.
October 7th.
In a week. Enshittification, Why Everything Suddenly Got Worse and What to Do About It. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. It's a pleasure to welcome to the program Cory Doctorow, author of Enshittification, Why Everything Suddenly Got Worse and What to Do About It. Cory, welcome back to the program.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be back on. Thank you so much for having me.
And congrats on the new book. It is, I had an advance copy, and it is awesome. And I have to say, like, the concept of enshittification you've been writing about for a long time, and it is, or it feels like it, maybe I have no sense of time anymore. And it feels like people really understand this almost like inherently, or at least they're aware of the experience. But walk us through sort of the process of enshittification. And this, I mean, walk us through this. But you can see this in not just online stuff, it feels like, but this is where it's sort of really almost art form.
Yeah, sure. So, as you may recall, I've spent most of my adult life, 24 years now, working for the Electronic Frontier Foundation on what you might broadly call digital human rights. And getting people to understand those issues, it's kind of an uphill battle. It's very abstract. So I coined this term enshittification. And it turns out that giving people like a minor license to be slightly profane is what it takes to get people to care about these very complicated technical issues. So enshittification proposes a kind of theory of platform decay, what it looks like when they go bad, why they're going bad at once now, and why it's so hard for us to leave them even after they turn bad, and then finally, what we can do about it. And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No. Well, like I know that this happens sometimes with restaurants. Like, the people don't come in, they start to cut back on quality of stuff, and it starts the demise. But in this instance, this is almost like this is the plan. As opposed to like a restaurant, sort of like that's when they're struggling. This is the plan of essentially, this is the business plan.
Well, I would say it's not so much the plan as the playbook, because I actually reject the idea that these guys had the executive function or forethought to lay in wait for us so long, leaving a platform that was good for a while. Maybe I should say, the characteristic pattern of enshittification is you have platforms that are good to their end users, find a way to lock those users in, then make things better for their business customers, find a way to lock the business customers in, make things worse for them, and then turn into a pile of shit. That's the enshittification thesis. And I don't think they have the long-term forethought. I think they're like too ketamine-addled and ADHD to do this. I think what happened was we used to have constraints where when these people got a bad idea about how to make things worse for us to make things better for them, they either realized or someone else convinced them that if they did it, they'd get punished, that competitors would swoop in, or that hard-to-replace employees would leave, or that regulators would clobber them, or that new technology would be developed, so something that made a 11-foot ladder to go over the 10-foot pile of shit they just thought of. And what happened was over decades, as we got rid of all those constraints, the punishments that these completely mediocre, terrible people used to worry about, or that used to stay their hand, or that used to punish them if they didn't worry about it enough and they went ahead with it, then what happened was that these guys were able to yield to their worst impulses, and things just got better for them and worse for us.
Does it have to do with the structure of big tech and the move fast, break things period, where there was so much investment money, there was an attempt to grow the economy through the tech sector, and these tools, whether it be social media or what have you, weren't straightforward in how they were going to make money for these guys. So they created these tools, raised a shit ton of money, and then they have to work backwards from that. Like, that's what it feels like more than anything. It's a failure of our government to catch up to these new technologies, but even more so, it's a function of speculative capitalism.
See, I actually completely disagree. I think
it's your book,
I think it's
so
the
tell me why I'm
regulatory
wrong.
environment. So, look at Google. Google wasn't like not making money, right? It wasn't like Google was like getting an investor subsidy like OpenAI is now, and then just had to figure out how to turn the screws to make money. Google was the most profitable company in the history of the world. And then they made things worse. And so it wasn't because of an overinvestment trying to catch up. It's because policymakers, far from failing to keep up with technology, took decisions, right? Like we decided to stop enforcing antitrust law. So you have Google, which is a company that had one good idea in the previous millennium when they made a really good search engine, and has had no good ideas since. Everything they've done successfully since then was a company they bought in defiance of antitrust law through forbearance for predatory acquisitions. And their internal measures are all things that failed. And we also let these companies invade our privacy. Again, that's not Congress failing to anticipate this. This is Congress just not acting. The last time Congress gave us a new federal privacy consumer law was in 1988, when Reagan banned video store clerks from telling the newspapers which VHS cassettes you had. That's why Google spies on us. It's not because they failed to catch up. It's because we let them merge to monopoly. We let the internet turn into 5 giant websites filled with screenshots of text from the other 4. When you have a cartel or a monopoly or a duopoly, they capture their regulators. Their workers were too short-sighted to unionize when they had a ton of power. And so to the extent that they were able to hold the line by saying, no, I'm not going to shitify that thing I missed my mother's funeral to ship on time for you, and the guy across the street will give me a job if you fire me and try and make me do it, that went away as soon as supply caught up with demand. We've had 500,000 tech layoffs in the last 3 years. And we saw the monotonic expansion of IP law that makes reverse engineering, ad blocking, interoperable clients, alt clients, things that, would allow technologists, whether working for startups or co-ops or individuals, to check those bad impulses. We saw them go away. So if I can give one little example here, in 1998, Bill Clinton signed the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. It's a law that bans reverse engineering. It carries a 5-year prison sentence and a $500,000 fine. And what that means is that if you just design your product so that it doesn't have an open way to alter its behaviors, so that you have to reverse engineer it to change how it works, then it just becomes illegal to change how it works. This is how we ended up with printer ink, where you can't just install generic ink. It's not that it's hard to overcome the thing that checks for generic ink. It's just a crime, right? So imagine we're in a product planning meeting for our website, and the guy running the meeting, he says, I got an idea. We're going to make the ads 20% more obnoxious and invasive. We'll get a 2% increase in top line ad revenue. That's our big KPI. Everyone's going to get rich. Someone who doesn't care about user welfare is going to stick their hand up and say, Elon, I love how you think, but has it occurred to you, we make the ads 20% more obnoxious, 40% of our users are going to install an ad blocker, because you don't need to reverse engineer a web browser to put in an ad blocker. 51% of web users have installed an ad blocker. It's the biggest boycott in human history. Meanwhile, It's illegal to do that for an app because you have to reverse engineer the app to do it. So when we say, okay, well, how obnoxious are we going to make the ads in the ad blocker, in the app rather, that same person's going to say, oh no, you should make them like 100% more obnoxious, get a 10% increase in revenue. And it's not like we didn't warn that this would happen when this law was passed. The guy who was responsible for this law, Bruce Lehman, Bill Clinton's IP czar, he was laughed out of Al Gore's information superhighway hearings. He was chased to Geneva, where he made it a wipeout treaty at the UN. And then Congress was warned when they passed it. These are like totally foreseeable outcomes. It's not that these guys are so smart they're running circles around Congress. It's that Congress created the enshitogenic environment, and then we got enshitocene.
And in that environment, is that created simply because of the sort of like move away from the prior existing antitrust sort of perspective? I mean, which we saw a return, brief as it was, during the Biden administration. Yeah. That's when a lot of these cases, some of the cases were actually started during the Trump years, but a lot of these cases in terms of Google in particular. And, you know, I suppose we could debate as to whether or not the judges understand the political environment they're in. We just saw the remedy part of one of the Google cases was a joke. I mean, just an absolute farce. Yeah. So what, and I know you write about this obviously in the book, but this impulse is just simply always to like water flowing downhill in terms of a pursuit of whatever small profit increase there can be. And if there's no dam there essentially or obstacle, they're just going to go.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, these guys, they get up every morning and they go grab the giant lever yanked in shitification in the C-suite. And it used to be that stuff used to stop the lever, right? They had to worry about competitors and regulators and workers and other technologies, and they don't have to worry about it. So the lever has been sort of lubricated and it moves really freely. You know, you mentioned that the judge failed in the Google case, and boy, did that Judge Amit Mehta ever fail. But, you know, it's not like the judges got a mind virus or something. Like, we even know how the judges lost track of how antitrust law works. So, you know, there was this like fringe guy, Robert Bork, who was a, you know, arch conservative Nixonite criminal, failed to be appointed to the Supreme Court. And he had this idea.
He was borked.
He was borked. That's where the term borked comes from. And one of the ways he got borked, by the way, was that his video rental history was leaked, which is why Ronald Reagan signed the last privacy law we ever got. Turned out the best thing you could say about Robert Bork is he had pretty good taste in movies. But I think Congress were like, oh no, when they leak my video rental history, it's going to be bad. So they moved to ban it. So, you know, you had this fringe guy, Robert Bork, and he had these bad ideas that antitrust was, you know, a fool's errand, that when you saw a monopoly, it was because like companies were good, right? If 90% of the world uses Google search, it's because it's the best search. And it would be really perverse to punish Google for making a product we all love. And so, you know, they put a lot of money behind that project. They convinced Jimmy Carter to start with the agenda. Reagan really picked it up. But here's the thing, they played an inside-outside game, because judges have to go for continuing education courses, just like any other professional. And they funded this thing called the Mann Seminars, M-A-N-N-E. They're these luxury junkets in Florida, all expenses paid. 40% of the federal judiciary graduated from it. And it was just a session where you would learn about how antitrust was bad and monopolies were efficient. There's good empirical work from Princeton researchers showing that judges who attended the Mann seminars went on to rule differently, to rule in favor of monopolies. And it wasn't just those judges that were affected, because they created an edifice of precedent, right? So this was just like concentrated wealth, right? Like, again, it's tempting to think of this as like the great forces of history or an intrinsic function of capitalism or the iron laws of economics. These were just like a bunch of guys whose names we know, who did stuff that would have this predictable outcome. And many of whom are like still alive and walking around today and not worrying that someone's going to size them up for a pitchfork. And we kind of let them off the hook when we say, oh, well, Congress couldn't keep up, or, you know, it's because of VCs. VCs want as much profit as they can get, but they don't want to do things that aren't profitable. Like when I used to run a website with some friends called Boing Boing. It's still around. I'm not involved in it anymore. And in the early days of the web, pop-up ads were everywhere, and not these like wussy pop-up ads you get now that are like a box inside your browser. It was a whole other browser window. It was 1 pixel square. It auto-played music. It ran away from your cursor. And we would try to tell our advertisers, like, everyone hates these. We don't want to put them in our website. And they'd be like, well, then we don't want to pay for ads in your website. But as soon as ad blocking was turned on by default in the major browsers, we just went to them and said, here's our log files. 90% of our users never see a pop-up ad. And all of a sudden, this thing that they were absolutely demanding with no exceptions possible became a thing they didn't give a damn about. VCs only want the things that will make money for them. And the policy environment determines what the rest of us do when they enshitify the products we like. When Mark Zuckerberg was tempting people off of MySpace, he didn't rely on them leaving MySpace, going to Facebook, and then waiting for their dumb friends to join them. He knew that they liked their friends more than they hated Rupert Murdoch. So he gave them a bot. It had a login and a password field. It would go to MySpace several times a day. It would grab everything waiting for them there, put them in their Facebook inbox. And you could reply to them on Facebook, push it back out to MySpace. And he just bled off their users. But, the expansion of IP law over 20 years means that if you do that to Mark Zuckerberg, he will nuke you till you glow. And so, again, we told the people who made these policies that this was going to happen. They were like, oh, you're being hysterical. And here we are, the world's most mediocre billionaires in charge of 4 billion people's social media lives.
Once that original sin is committed, right, where they think like, oh, you're exaggerating, we need to let this to be a fertile ground for growth, blah, blah, blah. Is it that much harder to get it back? I mean, a lot of what you talk about in the book is like, the mass movements that we need to reverse things. But it's that much harder now too. I mean, on some level, right? Because Zuckerberg's spending a lot of money he no longer has to convince people as much. And incidentally, I got to say that man thing I had no idea about that professional. Like I know that world in terms of lawyers, but that makes total sense. Somebody's funding that thing. It's like what happened with OxyContin.
It is exactly what happened with OxyContin.
It's just marketed to the tastemakers, essentially.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. So, I think that sorry, I lost the question because I was thinking about OxyContin.
Let me rephrase it. Let me rephrase
it. No. Just refresh me.
Well, it was like, the obstacles that were faced in reversing it are far greater than maybe in the first place.
Okay, I remember now.
But let me just add to that in that the environment we're going to be dealing with, if we get to a post-Trump era, is going to have to be much more radical change. Like there's no returning back to where we were.
That's right.
So, I mean, talk about
Sure. So look, the people who created our antitrust laws, right? The first one was like Senator John Sherman, brother of Tecumseh Sherman, the guy who burned Atlanta. They said if we wouldn't allow a king to rule the country, we shouldn't allow an autocrat of trade. And they understood that people like John D. Rockefeller were more powerful than most state governments and arguably more powerful than the U.S. government. It was a real uphill slog. And one of the things that laws like the Sherman Act and the Clayton Act take aim at is something called incipiency. So it's not like a merger that will create enough power to take over the government, but a merger that will create enough power to create another merger to take over the government. This idea that you want to stop these roll-ups like we see with like private equity, where they buy one funeral home at a time, but eventually all the funeral homes in your neighborhood are owned by one private equity fund. And when you die, you're going to pay rent to them. So the decision not to enforce antitrust law created these monopolies that were very hard to budge. In 1970, the DOJ sued IBM, and that lawsuit went on until 1982, for 12 consecutive years. They called it Antitrust's Vietnam. IBM spent more on lawyers to fight the DOJ antitrust division than all the lawyers in the DOJ antitrust division cost the U.S. government. They outspent the U.S. government for more than a decade. They ran out the clock. Reagan got elected, and he halted the case, and so they won. And so you can see why it's like much better to prevent monopolies while they're forming than it is to wait for them to become mature, to become bigger than governments. And I tell this to libertarian friends. I'm like, guys, you think that the only role for a government is enforcing contracts? All right, then. Well, the referee's certainly going to have to be more powerful than the players on the field. The smallest government you can have has to be bigger than the largest corporation you're willing to tolerate. Otherwise, they're not going to do the job you think that they should be doing. And with all that said, and it is very dispiriting, and like all the best Americans, I'm Canadian, and I'm reminded at times like this of this Canadian aphorism from down east that if you wanted to get there, I wouldn't start from here. And with all that said, something I think that's like quietly miraculous has happened since the late 2010s that a lot of progressives and leftists have not noticed, which is that all over the world, we've seen this surge of antitrust action. Right?
Yeah, in Europe, I was about to ask you about that, Cory. They're the kind of leading the charge on antitrust with big tech, if you don't mind expanding on that.
They sure are. Yeah, the Digital Markets Act, the Digital Services Act. I'll give you an idea of how muscular and far-reaching the Digital Markets Act is. Apple has just threatened to stop selling iPhones in Europe. Right, which is like not gonna happen, right? You know, like we fetch about how shareholders are short term, but like this is one place where it works in our favor. You know, Tim Cook going to his shareholders and saying, "Sure, we're not going to sell phones to 500 million affluent consumers right now, but eventually the EU will capitulate and they'll be like, no, we want money in the next quarter. Forget that, right?" So, it's not just Europe though. So Canada has had a very weak competition regulator through most of its history. Our Competition Bureau in its history challenged 3 mergers and was successful 0 times. But in 2024, a guy who's kind of a corporate lickspittle, Justin Trudeau, led a 3-line whip for his MPs and passed the most muscular, big, aggressive antitrust law in Canadian history. Now the Competition Bureau is one of the most powerful in the world. We've seen antitrust action in the UK under a series of like extremely shambolic, far-right, terrible prime ministers. And not only that, but tech antitrust, where the Digital Markets Unit was the largest technical antitrust unit in the world, 70 full-time engineers on HMG's payroll. But we saw it in Australia and we saw it in China. The Chinese cyberspace directive bans Chinese tech companies, the big ones, from blocking little ones from competing with them. Because I think Xi Jinping really believes that these companies are not an arm of Chinese soft power abroad, that they're a competitor for Chinese state power at home. And so even he's, reached the end of his rope with these guys. And, political science, there's like big studies of, the Princeton study of thousands of political outcomes that concluded that the preferences of the public are effectively irrelevant. Right. If billionaires want something, it happens. If billionaires don't want something, it doesn't. It doesn't matter how popular or unpopular it is with the public. This is like defying all political logic. This is water flowing uphill, right? The law of gravity has been repealed all over the world. No one really knows why. And
I was just going to ask you, like, why do you think that's the case? And I know you have a hard out. It's at 12:55. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
In 8 minutes, I've got to go to my next call. Yeah.
Why do you think that is, or is it just like an awareness of? Is it just that it's become so excessive and obvious? I mean, in this country, it's quite clear that we can't even, to the extent that we're going to be getting economic numbers anymore out of this administration, the economic numbers that have ostensibly told the story in the past are no longer actually telling the story they purport to, because we have such a concentration of wealth that it's almost like a far more smaller group of people can change what the economy looks like from 30,000 feet. When you get closer to the ground, it's a very different story.
Yeah, the consumption numbers just tell you what billionaires are spending, and everyone else is like, sitting on a mountain of credit card debt and stuck in place. So I think, there's a lot of different factors coming together here. So, Stein's law out of the finance sector says anything that can't go on forever eventually stops. And I think that's sort of what you were just describing, that people have really reached the end of their tether. But there's also this idea that, like, political change is downstream of coalition formation, right? The reason the Trump coalition is so powerful is because a bunch of people who hate each other agreed to work together, right? When you have like Christian dominionists and like Hindu nationalists and, isolationists and imperialists all under the same umbrella, right? That's very weird, right? And you see that it's very powerful when it happens. My friend James Boyle, he talks about this in the context of the environmental movement. He says that before the term ecology entered our lexicon in the 70s, people didn't know they were on the same side. You care about owls. I care about the ozone layer. It's like, what's charismatic nocturnal avians have to do with the gaseous composition of the upper atmosphere? We're not really on the same team, but you can weld a team together by creating this conceptual framework for it. And I think there's this sense that concentrated wealth is the source of so many of our problems. And while people are like not super au fait with antitrust law because it's been in a coma for 50 years, there is this, I think, like inchoate understanding that anti-monopoly is anti-wealth concentration. Like literally, that's just what it means. And, maybe like generations of playing a terrible board game in our living rooms have taught us what a monopoly is, at least, right? And so when you say, oh, we're going to fight monopolies, people may not have a sharp connection between that and the problems that they're facing. But they do know that like this wealth concentration stuff is what's poisoning everything else. And I think that's true on the right. I think that's why you get populist right-wing figures like Matt Gaetz of all people, who call themselves a conservative for Lena Khan. It's there's like, I think those people are waiting to be picked off by us, frankly. Because the conservatives are not going to deliver on their anti-monopoly promises. Trump is just going to use monopoly law to extract settlement payments from and concessions from companies. They're to make companies, give him all kinds of favorable media attention in exchange for letting Larry Ellison buy every media outlet in America.
Right. It's an umbrella for essentially for bribes. But there still has to be at least some pretend, I think, sort of like support of the broad concept.
Yeah.
And
lip service.
Yes. And I guess, ultimately, maybe that lip service ultimately can be exploited. What can people do? Is it even is there any value in the short term of like particular habits at this point to push back? Or is it ultimately we need political movements to get real change?
Well, I don't think it'll surprise you to hear that I'm skeptical of changing your consumption habits as a way of changing the world. I don't think that you're going to like shop hard enough to make monopolies go away, in the same way that it doesn't matter how many buckets you sort your recycling into, it's not going to end the climate emergency, right?
Right.
But that's not to say that there aren't good reasons, personal reasons to change what you do. If like Twitter is ruining your mental health and you think Blue Sky will be better, by all means, join Blue Sky or Mastodon. Not because like it's going to hurt Elon Musk, but because it might help you. And if there's like a vendor you like, or like a artist or a performer, and you support them, that's great. By all means, it's like helping someone put groceries on their table and a roof over their head to do something that makes you happy. Sure, right? But it's not change. Change comes from, as you say, political movements. It's a systemic problem. As I mentioned, I've worked for the Electronic Frontier Foundation for going on 25 years now. We have a national network of community and regional activist groups called the Electronic Frontier Alliance, efa.eff.org. Electronic Frontier Alliance from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. And they work on local stuff, things like facial recognition ordinances, limits on landlords colluding to raise rent using price sharing platforms, state laws on right to repair, all kinds of issues that are really striking at the way that monopolies insert themselves into your life personally, right? And there's a lot of room at the state level and at the local level to do this stuff. One of the interesting factors about today's tech monopolies that makes them different from, say, John D. Rockefeller and Standard Oil is that they do the same bad thing to everyone everywhere in the world. John D. Rockefeller had a bunch of monopolies over like oil wells and pipelines and refineries in America and over ports in Germany. And when trustbusters in Germany and trustbusters in America talked to each other, they had nothing really to say except they didn't like this Rockefeller guy. But it wasn't like they could help each other with their case. Whereas now we get British tech regulators writing reports on abuses in the mobile payments market. You have European regulators turning those into laws and court cases. And you have those court cases being copied, translated, and pasted into successful cases in South Korea and Japan. And what we're doing in America with the Electronic Frontier Alliance is we are replicating the successes against Flock, against RealPage, against predictive policing companies across different territories within the US because it's the same scam everywhere, right? And so the thing that works in one place works somewhere else.
Well, we will put a link to that. And it's also, I imagine, a great place to go and build a larger movement because you're bringing people in there from multiple ideologies.
That's right.
Cory, where can people find Enshittification? I mean, the book. I know it's everywhere.
Yeah. Any bookstore will have it. It's published by Macmillan, by their Ferrari and Giroux imprint, and they're one of the big five, so they're distributed nationally. You can go to bookshop.org if you don't want to buy Jeff Bezos another penis-shaped rocket. And the one tricky part of my sales channel is that Amazon won't carry my audiobooks. Because they're not locked to Amazon's platform. I refuse to do that. So you can't get them on Amazon, you can't get them on Audible, and you can't get them on audiobooks.com. You can get them everywhere else, though. Libro.fm carries them, Downpour, even Google Play, because they don't have this lock-in stuff for audiobooks. They have lock-in for other stuff. And you can get my ebooks and audiobooks from me, too. I have an ebook and audiobook store, craphound.com/shop. And it is the only place I know of in the world where you can buy an ebook from a major publisher that is a sale and not a license. You own it, you can sell it to someone else, you can give it away, you can lend it out. If you and your partner divorce, you can divide it up in the estate, you can leave it to your kids. So craphound.com/shop.
All right, we'll put a link to that as well. Cory, really appreciate your work always, and thank you so much for coming on and talking.
I appreciate having me on. We'll have to do this again when we have more time. I got to get on my next call.
Yes,
all right,
please.
Lovely chatting with you guys. Thanks, Emma.
Yep,
thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Cory.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, folks.
Yeah.
That's it for us today in the free half of the show. And we're going to head into the fun half of the program where we've got a lot more to talk about. But check out that EFA at the EFF. The EFF also was very helpful back in the day when somebody who had sat on a podcast patent was trying. Were you here with that? No, you weren't.
No, but I heard about your Marin episode.
This was the premise of the Marin episode because I got contacted around the same time as Marin, and Marin was a bigger fish, but I can't remember at the time, but I had been in contact with the EFF as guests, so I connected them. I was just getting very excited because the patent trolls wanted to talk to my CFO, and I was sitting in a literally a closet almost with Michael and Matt Binder, and I'm like, oh, okay. What I'll do is I'll get one of those accountant hats, and I'm going to do a Zoom call with them, have Matt videotape it, and I'll go like, I'm going to get my CFO. Hey guys, just come back with the hat.
Wait, what's an accountant hat?
The
Just
green
a hat?
visor?
The green hat.
Oh, yes.
Ever seen one of those?
God, yeah. I mean, that's old. That's like mafia movies. They wear them in those, right?
Did they wear? Well, I mean, in like the 1920s.
Yeah.
Talking about 20th century iconography here.
Yeah.
I mean, accountants. What are they now? Like just AI, basically. Got to be.
Yeah. I mean,
half replaced.
Actually, there's a huge shortage of accountants. It turns out it's tough to find qualified accountants. I've been reading the FT lately.
It's been enshittification.
It's close enough. That's the Lec approach to accounting is taking hold.
Folks, just keep in mind it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajority.report.com. When you do, you not only get the free show, free commercials, but you also get the fun half, and you keep this show thriving and surviving, frankly. We don't want to be at the mercy of a monopoly like Google. So your memberships are very, very helpful.
You're not going to testify on Google's behalf.
I've told that story here, right? Yes.
People can go deep cut if they want.
Deep cut on that. Also, if you're watching us on Twitch, you can give us your Amazon Prime subscription for the month. You can point it towards us. You don't have to pay anything. We don't obviously get your Amazon Prime subscription. You basically just attribute it to us for that month. And that's
Otherwise,
a big
it
help.
goes to Jeff Bezos.
Exactly. Bezos is just
Shoot
like
into the
sitting
sky.
on that stuff.
We want our own penis-shaped rocket.
Exactly.
There's probably like been a rocket launch just with the unused Twitch Prime subs.
Also, justcoffee.coop. They're a co-op. They're located in Madison, Wisconsin. They really support their growers in Central America and in Africa. And they have Majority Report blend. Among other great blends or single origin coffees, justcoffee.coop. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Matt, Left Reckoning.
Yeah, we had a Sunday show for our Left Reckoning patrons yesterday where we went into a new gubernatorial campaign, Andrew White in Texas, which kind of, it's not very inspiring, but also talked about Megyn Kelly, who's filling in for Charlie Kirk at TPUSA meetings, maybe staring into an abyss. She was unaware of how dark it was because she's taking questions about the role of particularly Jewish billionaires in their politics. And I'll just say it's going to be tough for anybody to try to straddle that right wing the way Charlie had it. I think they're in for a world of I mean, I said the abyss. So yeah, check it out. Patreon.com/Left Reckoning show tomorrow night.
See you in the fun half.